Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you again. It's been a few weeks I haven't updated, and it has been really busy recently. And I think we need to continue on this. And there will be. I had a look at what's left in terms of the functional topics, and I think there are mainly around finance. So, for example, rate, payment, um, adjustment, and how this financial transaction works overall in terms of the all different types of financial transactions, financial activities. So yeah, let's carry on with this. And today, I think last time we talked about the payment in a very high level, how the payment actually works, what is payment event, how that get distributed and match with the bills. So today we will look a bit more on other aspects of payment to cover it. Okay, so we go through a few topics today. These are relatively smaller topics, but some of them are, I would say, they are still important because they will be a part of your implementation. Um, so we go through overview and then we look at the cancellation and the transfer of a payment. Then we look at the tender management, which today, I mean, it is still used by the system. It's not being used that often, especially involving cash payments. Um, and then we look at autopay, we look at the payment upload, and last we will review on the entity diagram. Okay, overview. Right, so I think role overview is probably a recap of what we already done in the last session. So first, a payment is distributed amongst the account service, so service agreements, in another word. So that could be metered service, could be non-metered service, could be intangible service. We talked through in the last video. A payment is linked to an account. A payment segment is created for each SA that receive a portion of a payment. So that's distribution, and payment segments will is in the case of uh, in of in the case of generating the bills, so you will actually match up with the bill. A payment segment generates FT if cancelled. Um, Subsequently, reverse FT is generated. A payment segment's financial transaction contains the financial effects of the segment on the SA's current and the payoff balance, which is true. This I think we know that. The only thing I think I didn't talk about is match events, right? Match event is actually something match between different financial transactions. In most cases, here it will probably match between the financial transaction from the bill uh, bill segment and the payment segment to cancel out. So normally a match event is created when we distribute the payment method, a payment segment. Cancellation transfer. Okay, so we talked about tender last time. We talked about payment. You can either cancel a tender. So if you cancel a tender, um, all the payments underneath the tender are automatically canceled. If you cancel a payment, the tender is not canceled. And when you cancel a payment, yeah, as we saw, it will generate a financial transaction to reverse the original financial transaction. Um, in terms of financial transaction, we will look at that in more details because on financial transaction, if we look at the technical details, you will see some how it's being indicated as a bill segment and bill segment cancellation, adjustment cancellation. There are some details we can go through that in the future discussions. When a tender is canceled, a cancellation reason must be given. If the reason indicated it's a non-sufficient funding, charge should be levied. System invoke NSF algorithm, which is defined on the accounts customer class. The base algorithm levies adjustment on the payer's account against the payer's SA with highest payment distribution priority. So in this case, um, we're talking about a particular algorithm, and this is kind of quite often used in the project. Okay, transfer payment. So for transfer payments, if we change account, so change from payment from one account to another account, um, a cancellation reason is provided, and then a payment is actually transferred. So the account ID will be changed on the payment, um, and the account on the tender, if account on the tender is changed, the original payment is cancelled. A new payment is added for the transfer uh, to the new account. Okay, so in the case of um, if the account on the tender is changed, then we will cancel the existing payment and then create a, well, the system will cancel existing payment and create a new one. If the event was created using distribution rule, um, transfer of its payment to another account should also be using rules. Transfer is only supported for a single payer that is also the payee on the payment. So this is a base rule, and if we want to use the base rule, we have to make sure payments, the payee and the payer is the same person. Okay, and um, yeah, but this logic um, could be customized. But normally, I would say the payer and payee, it is the same person for most cases, unless you are talking about broker paying for the customer. But even in those cases, in the implementation, the broker would actually indicate which customer is paid to. Um, yeah. Okay, tender management. Now, I don't really want to talk about tender management a lot because today it's quite. I mean, tender management is still happening, right? Uh, but mainly we are talking about this because a lot of the tender management functionality is related to um, cash deposits. Because in the old days, the customer could be giving cash and deposit need to be controlled, and just to make sure the money is safe for the customer. But these days, for most of the utilities, we don't see they take deposits or cash from the customer at all. It's all normally it will be in terms of payment, it will be direct debits, it will be bank transfer. That's the most cases. So this functionality is still there, but it's just um, not a very um, it's not very often used. Okay, so but I provide some information here. If you are interested, you can look at it. Okay, autopay. Now, autopay is nearly, I would say, 80% of typical utilities. So most of the utility accept autopay these days. Autopay. So there are two concepts. One is the autopay. One is the payment plan in the CCNB. I mean, in the C2M concept. Now they're different things because autopay is something it's more like a DD direct debit mandates with the bank, and the payment plan is something you would agree with the customer would agree with the utility, say, I would actually, based on my um, current service, based on the forecasted um, debt in say 12 months, with existing debt plus all the potential um, uh, charges I need to pay, I would work out a payment plan, and that could result into auto pay. Okay, but auto pay itself, we are talking here for the is for the direct debit mandate, especially in Europe. You have those requirements I mean, not only Europe, but most countries you need to have direct debit mandates with the bank, and that involve maybe sending out some instructions and then get confirmation. So this implementation would involve how autopay actually works. Okay, so autopay, if autopay is created for the account, when the um, account bill is completed, the payment is uh, already taken because it is assumed payment is actually taken at the point of bill is completed. So what happens is the payment is, because it's auto pay, it would actually generate being extracted at a particular date. So at the bill complete time, bill is stamped with auto payment extract date and amount. Okay, that's the payment amount. And then there is a batch job creates the automatic payment on the exact date stamp on the bill, and then there another batch job just simply distribute and freeze autopay on the autopay GL distribution code. And in the project, we also see there is a background process to download this autopay. So I put here, so when does it happen? System creates auto payments for accounts with active autopay option, either create at the bill completion or create on exact date. Most time it will be on the bill completion. That's what I've seen. You can also do that on exact dates if that's required by the bank. If a customer with a payment plan indicate the payment method is auto pay. A background process creates auto pay on the scheduled payment date if it's on the exact date. But over here, what I would say is in some of the implementation, you will need to download these auto pay, and they will need to be sent to the bank like an instruction file. There are different implementation based on that, but just remember that's not actually covered by the base. That need to be customized in each project. Okay, payment upload. So when we get a payment, we normally it comes in as a file. So in terms of C2M, there are two different ways of loading payment files. Now, always the first one is called process X. You will see a lot of these for uploading. So, for example, for maybe adjustment, bill, a billable charge. So these are the external source we will upload into the system, and if that's via a file, normally what's recommended by C2M is the first process is process X. X is actually just a custom batch you will need to create. Now, why do you need to create a custom batch? Because every implementation, the file will look different because the file could be coming from a source system, either a CRM or it could directly come from the bank. So if the format is different, every project needs to implement its own way, and that will basically load the file and populate a staging table. Now the second process is to PUPL is basically process the staging record and populate the payment tables. Okay, that's a standard way of uploading. Um, if you use distribution rule in the tender, okay, if you have distribution rule in the tender, what needs to happen is there are 4 different batches. Similarly, the first one is to load file, populate stage table. Now you have staged update because of the tender control and deposit control. Not going through the detail here, but here is just kind of illustration on what is happening, and these are the base batches. I think in most of the case the base batch is sufficient, except the process X. But if you have additional information, probably you want to customize them. But these are the 2 different ways of loading. Depends on if you have automatic distribution rule on the payment event. Okay, so at last we look at the entity diagram. Okay, so this is basically similar to what we have seen before. I mean, we in the last video I talked about the payment events and how that is linked to account and service agreement. There isn't much change in terms of the data model, as we were just talking about a few more features on the payment. But I think most important thing to remember here is payment event also it consists of I mean include the payment tender, and the tender is part of the payment event, and also deposit control is linked to the tender control as well. which is a part of tender. Okay, so all these information are not really visible over here, but I think if your project requires cash deposit, etc., then you probably want to utilize those. But as I can, in my experience today, most of the cases we will talk about auto pay, we will be talking about bank transfer. Those are the main methods of payments. Okay, so this last one is the payments. I think we can conclude here, and I think what we can do is probably look at start to look at more calculation part of the bill, which is the rate. I know that is a very big topic because that includes not just the rate but also things like how the bill factor works, how the calculation line actually works. So we will need to probably go through that in more details with examples, otherwise it will be very difficult to understand. I'm not quite sure how many people are working on rates these days because normally in my days, there's one person who is in charge of all the rates, and unfortunately, in one of the projects, that was me. Um, and yeah, I think it will be good to go through some real examples with how to design a rate. Um, and yeah, good to have you today, and see you next time.